Welcome, dear viewers. I'm Salma Nassib. We are at the African Startup Center here in Algiers, a continental gathering that is running from December 6 to 8 under the theme Raising African Champions. Join me today, Abdullah Sanobar, Executive Director, DMZ, CEO, DMZ Ventures Global Startup Ecosystem Leader. Welcome, Abdullah.
Thank you very much, Salma. Great to be here.
Thank you. So, starting off with our debate, tell me, Abdullah, how do we get more VCs and cooperate to write checks for African teams scaling beyond local markets?
Well, first of all, great question, and that's really the theme of why we're here. It's looking at African champions and being able to bridge the gap more between the rest of the world and what's happening here in Africa. I truly believe, as a venture capital myself and investing in so many companies, Africa is ripe for the opportunity. There's so much good talent, so much innovation, and so many young people that are coming up with brilliant ideas that should be brought to the rest of the world. The best thing is to start in Africa. And how do you attract more VCs is by obviously showing value creation. There needs to be value creation in what's being done. You need to be able to showcase that the product and the business that's being created has legs to stand on outside of Africa and not just in Africa. Selma, investors, when they invest, they look at hyper growth in the companies. They're not going to invest in a small company or a medium-sized enterprise. They want to invest in startups that have the potential to grow and scale at a very fast pace. So when you say that, they look for three things: who's the team, what's the product, and what's the size of the market.
Great.
So as African startups are beginning to build and grow their businesses, and we've already seen some incredible wins all across the continent, how can they make sure, as they look to scale outside of Africa, how can they show more value creation through the traction that they're able to get as a business, through the markets that they're able to attract locally and globally, but most importantly, the impact that they can drive.
Abdullah, tell me, public money vs private, where should we be used? Where should it be used?
Look, I think both money is always good for a startup, right? Early companies, young startups need to always consider all options. The difference is whichever money you take will guide you in a different path. And sometimes I say the best model is marrying the two together and seeing how can you make sure that you find public money, which are things like grants and tax credits, versus private money like venture capital and maybe even more like bank loans. Building a startup, it depends on the vertical and the space that you operate in, the amount of time that you need to build this business and maybe get your first customer. Needs to understand how fast you're looking to grow and what kind of support you need in terms of talent and hiring. So I always say that there is no such thing as a good answer for this one. They're both good, depending on where you are in the business, how quick you're trying to grow, and what your risk appetite is.
Okay, and ministers stress youth empowerment. What practical support do young founders need right now, Abdullah?
So actually, look, speaking and hearing the minister speak earlier at the conference as well, speaking to the number of about 25,000 graduates a year that need jobs. The reality is there will not be enough jobs to fit the graduating rate coming out of Algeria. The best thing to do then is to create jobs, not consume jobs. How do you do that? Obviously, you're establishing an environment, an ecosystem, a hub where people can build businesses, build startups, to become the captains of their ship and the masters of their fate. And that's probably the best way you can deliver on that. What's one way of doing that is creating things like incubators and accelerator programs. One of the ones that we're partnering with in Algeria today is Jazairiya AI Incubator. They've done a great job as a private incubator in being able to build momentum and excitement within the youth to take their ideas and bring it to reality and build the business even after kind of the early practicality of building the business. But how do you go further with the business itself? How do you make sure that it becomes part of your livelihood? So incubation and accelerators are a great model to start in Algeria because it gives for youth, because of course it gives you access to mentors and advisors. It gives you access to a strong community, people that you can engage with, peers, networks. It gives you access to potential customers. You want to build a business, number one, my favorite thing in the world is revenue. If you want to build a business that's going to be successful, show me traction in terms of revenue. If people are willing to buy your product, then there's going to be a market. If people don't buy your product, there's no market.
Indeed, and we heard Algerian officials say 15 to 20% of local startups involve the diaspora. So how can governments better mobilize that resource?
That's honestly such a powerful tool to look at, right? So there's such a strong Algerian diaspora all over the world. Being in Canada, I also know that the diaspora is very strong and very committed to helping the local community here back in their home countries. There needs to be a strategic approach to it that would actually engage them in a very thoughtful way. Okay. You don't want to just say that we're going to engage and then kind of forget it for 4 or 5 months and not come back. Is there a program? Is there an ambassador? Is there something that would kind of shape this program to allow continuity within the engagement, whether it's around mentorship, whether it's around opening markets for other Algerian youth to be able to access abroad, whether it's about financing. So I think one of the models that we're seeing globally with diasporas is that they're putting in angel funding, high net worth individuals in different countries that are part of the Algerian diaspora want to invest here. They need to find ways of how to invest and how to be able to do it in a way that's going to be practical, but also, hopefully a smart return on investment. You don't want this to be charity. You want this to be proper investments that would help grow the economy and create value for everybody.
Not the opposite.
Exactly.
And talking about mobility, visas, cross-border programs, talent exchange, what's the quickest win of entrepreneurs?
Look, part of it, it's a mix of everything as well, right? So when you think about businesses and at the core of what they are, it's talent. You need to be able to create an environment where they're not limited or restricted by movement and where they need to go and who needs to come here. So there needs to be a deliberate strategy that would allow entrepreneurs in Algeria to move outside and grow and scale. But the vice versa is true. How do you create an environment in Algeria where the global marketplace can say, this is the place we want to be, this is the place we want to grow? Visas is a big part of the story, of course, but it's not the end of it, right? So there needs to be exchanges and partnerships that are established with global organizations. Again, our work right now as a Canadian operator, we have global offices everywhere. And we've now partnered with Jazairiya Incubator, and we are expanding that network to allow them to come to Canada. Okay. So part of the competition, part of the event that we did in Algeria was a competition, and the winning team will have a chance to come to Canada as a student exchange. The whole team will come to Canada, spend 8 weeks with us, and we will introduce them to the North American market. To me, that's that's how can we take that model and scale it across the country.
So this is the first step for them, and then they can move to.
Imagine what maybe this can change their life.
Exactly.
They go to a new country.
You start small and then you go bigger.
Exactly it. And this is the most exciting part for me when I look at a young company, because traveling gives perspective. Global markets gives you new perspectives, and you can grow.
And Abdullah, from DMZ's global view, which African talent programs actually scale founders, according to you?
Say that one more time.
I said, from DMZ's global view, which African talent programs actually scale founders?
Well, look, I think a big part of it is actually removing any red tape, any issues. So again, we talked about visa process or visa kind of programs that would allow free flow between founders from country to country to country. But also I think there needs to be probably even bigger focus on how do you implement different, what I call roadshow programs. So you take companies, the best companies from all the different countries across Africa, bring them together, but have them do rotations around the world. The best thing you can do is to showcase and put your startups that are performing at the highest level in the spotlight globally.
Yes.
Because if you can take the best companies here and show them to Africa, Asia, Europe, North America, the world will start to change the narrative. That Africa is serious. Africa is actually one of the best and most dominant startup players in the world. But if you're out of sight, you're out of mind.
Exactly.
So you need to be able to create a platform that showcases the best of the best of the best, but it's taking companies sometimes outside to show what's real.
Abdullah, what should we expect at the AU summit? Is this heading to Addis with teeth or paperwork?
Yeah, look, we're all going to hope it's going to have something with teeth.
Indeed.
Paperwork nobody wants to deal with, right? We have enough of in our lives, and that's the last thing we want.
Yeah.
Being here in Algiers and hearing out many of the African ministers and representatives from the AU that have been present, there is a real inclination and a real gathering of minds around wanting to progress and move forward. I believe that the core of this issue will be about helping African startups go global. It'll be about helping African startups become the best versions of themselves and reach new markets and be able to really accelerate their growth at levels that maybe haven't been able to be done before. So the core of it will be youth empowerment, startup venture creation, and venture scalability, I think.
And one quick thought, Abdullah, your top 3 commitments in policy, investor action, founder move, what could it be?
Look, the top 3 things have always been around easing the burden on founders and entrepreneurs, removing red tape, removing bureaucracy. So a lot of it comes back to policies that will be friendly to entrepreneurs, that would actually allow them to have the incentive to want to build and grow a startup and a company. Second thing around is finding early capital, revenue, funding that would allow startups to be able to grow and scale. This needs to be a very curated effort that would actually see companies in the African Union and in Algeria specifically when they want to build a company, they're able to leverage different envelopes of funding, whether it's venture capital, whether it's grants, whether it's going to be research funding. It needs to be an environment and an ecosystem that it's enabling them to want to grow and scale that part. And then finally, I would say there needs to be a strong policy around IP. I know this is one of the early things that we learned, that we would create these incredible companies, and at the end of it, they would go south to the US, and then we would lose all the value from that startup that was creating so much momentum that would go down south. So building strong IP policies for Africa now would enable it to continue gaining from the successes in the next 10, 15, 20 years. So don't just build for tomorrow.
But build for the future.
Build for, this needs to be like legacy.
Legacy.
We're talking about generational growth. This needs to be for the children of the founders today.
The upcoming generation,
Correct.
I would say. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Abdullah Sanober, Executive Director, DMZ, and CEO, Ventures Global Startup Ecosystem Leader. Thank you for your time and insight. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Selma Nassib. Stay with Al24 News and take care.